and strike gives you a short but very powerful burst of speed. If you hit another vehicle when you use a strike, you make it explode and perform what we call a KO, which is very powerful. It gains you energy and also a position. But another thing that you can do if you decide to keep the entropy instead of spending it for a strike is use the ultimate ability, the Overdrive.
The Overdrive is the ultimate weapon in Screamer, so you can decide to save the full entropy bar and use it completely to enter the Overdrive state. There, you'll be much faster, you'll have the shield engaged for a brief amount of time, and whenever you touch an opponent, you'll KO them immediately. But be careful, when the shield fades out, you'll be still very fast, but you'll be vulnerable, and if you touch the walls, you'll explode. It's a very powerful tool to be used very carefully and very skillfully. We've been talking a lot about fighting and KOs, but don't be afraid. When you get KO'd, you don't restart from still, but you restart in motion thanks to the ecosystem. So you'll be able to rejoin the competition and stay into the groove and fight for the lead.
So, when you take into consideration all these gameplay mechanics, you can easily imagine that each race in Screamer can be very unique. And on top of that, you have to consider for the differences in character abilities and also the differences in vehicle handling. So I think we can fairly say that there's quite the evolution in each race.
Yes, and races evolve throughout the laps, because at the very beginning you have no sync and no entropy, but then you'll be start to build the sync and use it. But how to use it? To be faster and to protect yourself with the shield. And then you'll build entropy, but choices again. Should you use it for strike or save it for overdrive? So there's a lot of different strategies you can use to really be prevailing into the races. And there's a lot of evolution from the beginning to the end.
And now we are thinking about the single-player part of the game, so racing against the AI. But we can assure you that the experience of the game gets turned up to 11 when you go online and race with your friend. The boost is a very traditional action in any arcade racer, but in Screamer we tried to put our own twist on it. Basically, boost is performed by releasing the button at a certain time. But if you release it at the perfect time, you can get what we call a perfect boost. And the perfect boost gives you an additional force for the car, which goes faster and also lasts a little bit longer. So boost is very important throughout the entire race. But boost is not the only thing that you can do when you have enough sync.
Shielding is the other way to use the sync resource, because the Screamer blends the racing part and the fighting part seamlessly. So to try to win the races and prevail is key to be able to protect yourself from the other attacks. So when you see the on-screen alert, you can decide to use sync to activate the shield, protect yourself for a brief amount of time, and be basically invulnerable. But all the actions you do, both boosting and shielding, will use sync and at the same time build up the other key resource, that is the entropy.
When you perform actions that use sync, you gain entropy. And entropy is the energy that fuels the fighting part of the system. The first action that you can perform, one of them is the eco. The eco is a system that allows players to gain two different types of energy. One of them we call the sync, and the other we call the entropy. Sync is the main one and can be gained by doing different actions throughout the race. For example, you can gain it by staying in the slipstream of an opponent, or you can gain it passively throughout the race. There are also characters that have abilities that tweak or add new ways to interact with sync. But the most important action that the player can do to gain sync is performing an active shift.
Active shift is a simple but very effective mechanic, because when the RPM of the engine is reaching a critical threshold, you can tap a button and engage the upshift. Doing so has a connection with the story and the overall idea, because you are in groove with the race and with your car, so you get the most out of it, getting a slight push from the engine, but also critically a gain in the sync. So active shifting needs a little concentration, but gets you a great reward in building up the sync throughout the race. All things going on in Screamer while racing and fighting, we had to give the players a full control over the cars, regardless they are member or leader cars. So we thought about achieving a perfect drift system with a twin stick control. So with the left stick, you control the steering. You can take very clean and fluid corners, sweeping and tweaking the line of the car. But if you need something more radical, and quite often you'll need to do so, to change the direction or to drift around corners or to engage other cars in the fighting part, you'll use the right stick. That triggers the drift mechanic separately from the steering one. So you can interact them, so you can drift, steer, or correct the drifting with the steering part. So you can achieve complete control over your car. The difference is really remarkable because usually you need to enter in other games the drift state, typically using the brakes. But it's very hard to understand when to do so and how to do it precisely and how to exit the drift. While in Screamer you have complete control over the two phases and you can blend them seamlessly, achieving a total control over your car.
The twin stick is just one of our gameplay systems. Another one is the Eco. The Eco is a device installed on all vehicles that have to take part in the tournament, and it's a major plot point of our story. The Eco is what fuels both the racing and the fighting part of this game. For the racing, you will use a resource that we call Sync, that allows you to boost and to shield. Instead, for the fighting, you will use what we call the entropy, that allows you to use the mechanics of strike and overdrive.
So as Federico was saying, Sync is used for boosting and shielding against attacks. But how do you build it? Well, there's a passive way, just getting into the groove of the race, or actively building it up with specific actions like active shift, or doing KOs or others. It's all integrated into the mechanics and to the gameplay of Screamer.
Here, it's Gabrielle.
Devi sempre. Ik dacht dat je wilde racen.
Finally.
Hello? We're here for the tournament.
Ambition, vengeance, powerful emotions that fuel our lives. But are they enough when death lurks around every turn? When fear and destruction consume us. Again and again and again. Join my tournament. Find out once and for all what it takes to defy death. Show me the strength of your wills!
Screamer is an upcoming arcade-style racing game developed and published by Milestone S.r.l, marking a revival of their classic late 90s racing franchise under a bold new aesthetic and gameplay framework. The game is set in a futuristic, anime-inspired dystopian world, and centres on a high-stakes underground tournament known simply as The Tournament, where drivers compete for glory, vengeance, and survival under the watch of a mysterious organiser. Players are invited to choose from a roster of bold characters, each allied with a distinct racing team, and paired with a heavily customised car that reflects their personality, backstory, and approach to speed and combat. Beyond raw racing, Screamer introduces the ecosystem, a dual resource mechanic comprised of sync, gained by executing slipstreams, perfect shifts, and daring drifts, and entropy, the built-up overload enabling devastating overdrive attacks, which fuels both speed boosts and vehicular combat moves such as shields, strikes, and toggles into maximum effect. Vehicle handling is built around the twin stick input, using the left stick for steering and the right stick for drift-slide control, allowing for fluid maneuvers and aggressive takedowns while maintaining arcade accessibility. Environments vary from neon-lit cityscapes to scorched deserts and dense woodland circuits, each track layered with shortcuts, hazards, and destructible elements designed to support both high-speed racecraft and combat tactics. Customization is extensive. Liveries, decals, body kits, and power modules are unlocked through gameplay, letting players tailor both aesthetics and performance. The narrative component threads through campaign mode, linking each driver's quest with larger stories of ambition, betrayal, and redemption within the tournament's dark hierarchy. While still in development, with release pegged for 2026, Screamer represents Milestone's attempt to fuse their racing heritage with modern systems and style, emphasizing fast action, bold visuals, and the fusion of racing with combat in a narrative-driven arcade experience. Now you can enjoy the screenshots without any interruption. Enjoy!